Yep. Testing one, two, three. All right, we should be live. Cameraman, would you like to stand up to the camera and be prepared to zoom in on? So, got some feedback. We're live. Thank you guys for joining us today on a cloudy Saturday afternoon. This is still a place where people can come and ask the questions that you can't ask in other places, where you can have discussions that you can't have in other places. And it seems that, well, somebody or somebody's not too happy with that. We got so much going on in the world that's making it difficult for that to take place. If you are watching from anywhere around the world, you know that our world is in a crisis with coronavirus. And it is making life difficult, to say it kindly. It is wreaking havoc. And here in America, where we are, the Reclamation Project, and specifically here in the Bay Area, it is almost pandemonium. And I don't see things getting any better anytime soon. I expect for things to get worse for a while before they get better. We are right now operating in such a way that we cannot operate fully functionally. I'll say it that way. We have, you don't have to pan the cameras right now, but we have a seating arrangement where seats are spaced out to give everybody room because that's a new health department order that was issued yesterday, taking effect early this morning. So we are barely able to qualify to assemble today. We meet all the standards, so we are legally able to operate today. But it just seems like, wow, what's really going on in this world? Now, the topic for today is why is Satan the enemy? And it actually seems quite apropos, even though this is number three in this series that we've been discussing on today. And when we first started the series at the start of January, there was no knowledge of, at least to the common citizen, there was no knowledge of the coronavirus. But it just seems so apropos that we are going to be discussing someone who has made it his mission to wreak havoc on this world and to send it into pandemonium. So we're going to begin by watching another episode of The Record Keeper. If you have not ever seen this, I recommend that you watch it. It's an 8 to 11 episode series. Each episode is between 8 and 12 minutes long. And what it does is it provides the backstory to creation. So whether you're a believer or not, most people understand or know the framework for the creation story. Adam and Eve, God created this, He created that, and then as time moves on and the world populates, we get to a point where, well, where we are now, with lots of events taking place in history, but we are where we are now because things began in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve, the two people that God created with His hands. But there's a story behind the story, and the story behind the story explains why God makes decisions that He does. And so we're going to, do we have it queued? Just let me know when we're queued by a hand signal, and then I'll let you know when we'll get started. And so when you understand this backstory, you understand why um, God makes the decisions that he does, why in some cases he seems to be very active, while in others he seems to be aloof, if you will, and just not present. There's reasons. There are reasons for that. And so the more we understand what took place before creation, the much clearer it becomes. So we're going to pass the mic. We're going to open up the floor and allow people to speak. I know we're a little bit short on time because we started a bit late, but we're still going to pass the mic and let you guys express. And we hope to just gain a little bit more clarity about why the world, um, well, first of all, why is Satan the enemy? He's the enemy because he's been actively working against God in ways that you just could not imagine, in ways that you could imagine, and then in ways that you could not. And some of this that we're dealing with, not some of it, this whole thing that we're dealing with now, the coronavirus, all it does is it reminds me, or it lets me know that everything that I was taught growing up, that I personally was taught, has come to fruition. Just give me a hand signal when that video is ready. All right, so let me just say this last thing. Um, let me say it now, and then we'll move to the video. No, let's go to the video, and I'll come back to it. Jonathan, hit the switch so that the internet can see. Hit auto.
See, this just goes right in here. This activates the gauge, and we're ready to go. Does that make sense?
Not really.
Would you like me to show it to you
No.
again?
I'm just not that mechanical.
Asa.
Me alegro que esté aquí, Atlan.
Well, if we leave now, we'll be right in time.
In time for the afternoon drop. Got it. We need to finish the rest of these.
Surprise inspection. Everybody stand aside, please.
Excuse me. On what authority?
As specified in the formal agreement between administration and the Office of Displaced Persons, Title 14, Section 3, Paragraph 2, both parties are legally hereby permitted to search and examine the record keeper's quarters in order to maintain proper procedures are being enacted and performed. Clearly, you don't read your own contract.
I know the contract, I just don't know you.
I am Estrella. I'm an attorney from the Office of Displaced Persons.
Está bien, Atlan.
Pero esto es un atropello, Reina. ¿Cómo se le permite venir así sin anunciarse, sin autorización? No puede ser.
Puedo. According to the agreement, we have open access to the
I
records.
don't have access to the record.
I beg your pardon.
But my offices are open access. I'd be happy to show you whatever you like.
Atlan, puede retirarse.
No, se puede quedar. We need to finish these.
Let's start with your process.
Un momento. Der Haftbefehl, bitte. Shukran.
Off one.
It's interesting that in all the millennia we've been doing this, the general has never called upon this clause. Why now?
Well, that is not your concern.
You ask for transparency, but you aren't willing to offer the same.
Well, your administration put in this clause, not mine. If you want to take this to the magistrate, we can. Good.
What would you like to see?
The records.
Those are off limits, like I said.
We have the right at any time to see the records whenever we see fit.
Title 1, Section 3, Paragraph 4. Either party may inspect said premises, but the record shall remain sealed until the appointed time. This document is binding and applicable throughout the universe in perpetuity.
Where are you from?
That's none of your concern. Let's just stick to professional discourse. I wouldn't go in there if I were you.
Well, walk me through your process. How do you conduct your interrogations?
You mean interviews?
Oh, I mean interrogations.
Have a seat and I'll show you.
I'll stand if it's all the same to you.
Have it your way. Typically, when we interview, the subject sits there and I sit here. I ask them questions and they give me their version of the events.
And you recall the conversations on this?
Yes, it's an elliptical graph.
Oh, I know what it is. But don't you think you should be using something a little more contemporary?
We have an affinity for the traditional.
Alex older than me.
It probably is.
You're younger than I thought you'd be.
I eat from the tree of life.
I just don't understand why you don't want to tell me where you're from.
Why is it important to you?
I'd just like to get to know you better.
Nous sommes amis maintenant?
Je devrais prendre vos amis, vos amis.
Emil,
It's just your accent I find it hard to place.
And I yours.
onion pinion.
I'm from the northern province, but I moved around a lot.
How do you feel about your job?
Gabriel.
As a record keeper?
Yes.
It's an enormous responsibility and I love what I do. But sometimes I wish I could experience everything that has been seen.
Rather than hear about it secondhand.
Something like that.
And where do the records go?
They are sealed, cataloged, and placed into a vault until the day when the records are opened.
And how many of the general soldiers have you interviewed?
Legion.
And wait, excuse me. And Miss Rayner, I have a few more things I need to talk to you about. According to the warrant, I have as much time as I need to conduct my interrogation. But stand aside, please. And do you stay alone in there?
Depends.
With
Sometimes I
them?
station someone by the door.
And what sorts of things do they talk about?
Facts.
Come on, we both require the same thing, but no one can help add in their own.
There is
opinion.
little room for conjecture in my office. I'm only interested in the events on Earth, not their opinions of them.
And how do you know when they lie?
I just know.
You can tell when someone lies.
Yes.
How often does that happen?
Rarely.
You expect me to believe you can tell every time someone is being untruthful?
I've spent my whole life looking into the eyes of truth. The one thing I can spot is a lie.
Oh, I find this hard to believe. This is something our general just...
Your general.
The general just cannot accept. We know that there is false information being recorded in
By
this
whom?
office. I'm not at liberty to say.
Of all the things administration has been accused of, being dishonest isn't one of them.
Times change. Try to keep up. Show me the rest of the building.
No,
Excuse me?
you're lying. You're not here because you think we're being untruthful. There's something else.
Unde provinciate nord.
Un oraș mic de malumării aperon.
Ce oraș?
Este foarte mic, probabil nu ai auzit niciodată de el. What is the general concerned about?
He isn't concerned.
Another lie.
He wants to know what is being said in this
Why?
office, not your opinion.
Why?
He said, but actually,
Why?
this is my audit. I am asking the questions here. Tell me about Loris.
Loris.
Yes, he's a lieutenant. Stands
I
about
know
this
who
tall.
he is.
What kinds of things does he talk
He
about?
shares his version of the events.
Just facts.
Mostly.
No opinions.
Occasionally.
What about secrets?
There are no secrets.
The general will not be pleased to hear that.
He'll be fine. Why is he concerned about Loris?
He isn't.
Lie number 3.
He thinks someone is leaking information
Why would it be Loris?
because he is the only soldier who comes in here with someone from the other side. I hardly need to remind you that this is highly against protocol.
Not against protocol, it is just unusual.
semantics.
They're still friends. They both requested it.
You can't tell me you're comfortable with this arrangement.
Administration sanctioned it, therefore I accept it.
No, this has to stop.
Why?
Because our last 2 initiatives was
Attacks.
our last 2 offensives was thwarted just before they were launched. First there was the Holocaust of Wada, and now our tower has been sabotaged.
You mean the portal?
What's the difference?
Calling it a tower just makes it sound like a lofty building.
It was a tower.
It was a portal back to the kingdom. You were trying to escape justice.
Don't you talk to me about justice.
You were trying to escape death, which is what you've always wanted.
That sounds a lot like
And
conjecture.
you convinced the humans to join you.
That is your opinion.
That is a fact. It is the same lie that you've been telling from the beginning.
Conjecture.
Surely you will not die.
Stop it! Stop it! Just facts! I just want facts!
You're no lawyer. You're a record keeper. Keeping records for the other side. So? What are you keeping records for?
A ty jak думаешь, для чего? Для великого суда?
I see.
I applied for your job, you know. Long before you did. I was in line for the position, and then along came Raina. From out of nowhere. There is no way you earned it.
She was the top administrative assistant to the king.
Atlan.
She was there at every meeting, every negotiation, every planning session. She was there when the first words of dissent were spoken. No one is more familiar with administration than her. And no one deserves this job more than her.
What? Good for you. Estrella. If you applied for this job, when did you defect?
when the general offered me the same position.
So you left because you didn't get the job?
I left because he accepted me. He appreciated me when administration did not.
Parvis.
What?
That's where I'm from, Parvis.
Harvest. That's...
Where the general is from, yes.
Did you know him?
Quite well, yes. We were very close.
This makes sense.
What does?
He often speaks of you. He says he misses being in your presence. Ele manda lembranças.
Audrey, can you get the lights for Daddy, please? Thank you. How many of you have seen The Record Keeper? Oh, let me ask this. How many of you are seeing The Record Keeper for the first time? Absolutely compelling. So let's just have a little quiz. Has anyone figured out who Raina is? She's the main character. So not the one who was coming in and who was being a little bit belligerent, but the calm, yes. Good guess. Not Gabriel, though. Anyone else? Anyone else? So her role is, while I don't know what her name is, what her role is, she's called the record keeper. She is the record keeper. And she's the one who's tasked with journalizing, cataloging the events that have been taking place in the history of the universe, specifically beginning now after the war in heaven. So for those of you who don't know, before the creation story, there was an event that took place in heaven, and it is most commonly referred to as the war in heaven. And so this is where Satan, or the devil, became the enemy of God. Basically, he opposed God and Jesus. He felt like he was qualified to participate in creation of man here on earth, but he wasn't allowed to do that. Long story short, he began to grumble and attempt to go and garner support from other angels that were in heaven. He succeeded in doing so. In fact, he succeeded in persuading 1/3 of all the angels that were in heaven, and they sided with him. And it eventually ended with a fight. And when I say a fight, it was a battle. It was a hand-to-hand, if you will, combat between the angels that sided with God and the angels that sided with Satan. Eventually, as you might expect, the victory went to God. The result was that Satan and his followers were sentenced to, you're out of heaven. No more. It's not your home. You have to go somewhere else with that. And they eventually took residence here on earth because, well, it's a long story behind, there's another story behind that, but basically this became the battleground now for how can Satan get redemption, if you would. Let me open up the floor. What are your thoughts on Satan as the enemy? Why do you think either he is or he isn't, if you have an argument for that? Anybody like to dare share what your thoughts are on Satan? Is he the enemy? How about if someone would share, why is he the enemy? Give me some specifics. Can you give us some specifics on why Satan is the enemy? Keep it like, grab the mic. Okay, thanks.
Well, we know that he's the father of lies, and since the
Told the
beginning,
first one.
he
Mhm.
he told the first lie, and with the lies, he uses to separate
Got it.
people.
Got
That's
it.
from
So if you're not entirely familiar with God, God is a person who doesn't lie. In fact, the way he put it was that he's not a man that he should tell a lie. Basically, what he was saying is, look, lies is something that just God doesn't do. Why does he need to do it anyway? If you think about that, he tells the truth all the time. Someone else.
I would like to everybody remember where did Satan really come from or who he was from the very beginning. Let us all reason together that he was one of the most beautiful angels, that he was uh, given a special talent.
Mhm.
He had complete control of all the music, of all the harmony and melody of the whole heaven.
Yes.
Also, he was a covering angel, a cherub. We all know the story.
Well, would you share some of that with us? Why is he called the covering angel, the cherub? Can you for those
Okay,
who don't know?
okay. A cherub angel, or a cherubim, as it's stated in the Holy Bible, is a special angel that was given from the very beginning the position to be upon the holy throne, covering and hovering and protecting both the commandments in God, and he had the highest position in heaven.
Yes.
And I believe that Lucifer, as his name was at the very beginning, who is Satan today, he was envious. He wanted that.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we know what happened.
I love it. I love it. So in a nutshell, in case you didn't know this, Satan was the highest ranking angel, and he had privileges that were afforded him that not other angels got to enjoy. And so he got to go, for example, he got to walk around the throne of God. So watch this. God, the Father, is so powerful. We'll talk about Jesus later. Jesus is just as powerful, but the way the Father God presents himself, even the angels, I'll just say normal angel at the moment, a normal angel, they're not equipped to go around God, come into too close a proximity to God. In other words, they can't go around his throne where he sits and he abides and he rules. Even angels are not enough. You can't just be just an angel. But Lucifer, at the time, that was his name before he was renamed Satan and the devil. He was of such high rank and order. He was special that he could walk around the throne of God. Now, let me ask this question. So, would it make sense? How does that play into him becoming the enemy? And so it makes sense that because he was such high ranking, an angel, that he was able to influence one third of the rest of the angels. Does it make sense why Satan is reviled now to the degree that he is? He had such privilege. He forfeited it. And so now we live in a world where he is despised and reviled. Does it make sense? Would anybody like to share or expound on that? That perhaps that has something to do with why he's perceived the way he is now? Or any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? Are we afraid of picking up the mic? It's been.
So, in regards to his arrogance and pride, um, that was, his. I've from what I gathered in regards to the story, the reason his character is the reason why he continues to be who he is, which is Satan. And yeah, pretty much that that piece, that how his heart has hardened, just like Pharaoh in Egypt when the situation with Moses, and how his heart was constantly hardened against God because of his desire to be God
Hmm.
and to not humble himself on the fact that he can never be God.
Hmm. There's a lesson in that we should probably check our aspirations and our desires so that they don't get so far out there that it changes who we are to the point that we're no good. I'm so glad that you pointed out, my dear sister back here, for pointed out that Satan was no ordinary angel, because a lot of people don't understand what the hoopla is, what the hype is. Why is it so important to talk about Satan, the devil, this angel, and not all the others? But as you pointed out, he was a privileged one. He got to do things that others could not. And because his heart was warped, it was wrong, and he decided to go against God, that just made it such a higher crime. So when we consider the story, this episode that we just watched, what's going on is that Raina's the record keeper now. So now there's an angel that's been tasked with keeping a record now, because now there's been grumblings. Is God a just God? Is he really just because he kicked Satan and 1/3 of his angels that he created out of heaven? They're no longer allowed to come back. Was that right to do? There were other angels who questioned that. Even some of the angels that continued to side with God, there were many of them who were on the fence at first, and they thought they might follow Satan, but then at the very end, and before it was too late, they decided, no, God really is just and we'll stay with him. So God establishes this system now where he keeps a record of everything that he does. And the Bible lets us know that at some point in time, that the books are going to be opened up. So in essence, if there becomes any question, which by the time they're opening up, it will already been decided. Those who side with Satan, those who side with God will pick their sides. But the books will be open and it will be revealed why God made this decision. He made this decision because this was best. And while you couldn't understand that that was the case at the time that it was happening, later on down the line, we realized that God's decision making really was best. So this guy Satan, some of the other things that I've got to bring it to a close. Um, this cat, I call him a cat. That's my upbringing. Satan. He's a special kind of dude here. I mean, he really has it out for you. It's basically his aim to get you to sabotage your passport into heaven. His has already been revoked. There's no way he's going back in there. In fact, his sentence is eventually death, along with some burning and death. It won't be for forever, but it'll be long enough to get the point across. His passport has been revoked. Yours hasn't. But he's doing everything he can to get you to revoke yours on your own. And it's a decision that each and every one of us must make on our own. We fast forward to where we are. I had alluded when I first started speaking to the fact that what we're experiencing now is quite a crisis. It's got many people experiencing a failure of heart for fear, as the Bible puts it. Men's hearts will fail them for fear. We live during a time now, we are now experiencing a time in Earth's history where there's a lot of uncertainty. Not anyone knows what's going to take place tomorrow and the day after, or we don't entirely know what's going to take place. So we are moving about in Earth's history during a time of uncertainty. And as I watch and see so many people are stressed and full of anxiety and just full of fear. I mean, my wife was just telling me this morning that she had to go to the grocery store for something, and the racks are empty. Some of you probably anybody experienced that already? Empty racks. So we know last week, and I think the week before, that what, Clorox wipes and toilet paper, hand sanitizer, those are already gone. So now it's moved to food. People are afraid. What I told this morning, and I may offend some people when I say this. That's all right. I'm a big boy. I can handle it. I told my children this morning that I was actually excited for this time. Okay, I'm going to pause for effect. I'm actually excited that what you all are experiencing with this coronavirus globally is actually taking place. Anybody want to take a crack as to why? I know this is a crazy question. Why would I ask you what you think about why I feel this way? But would anybody like to take a crack at why Stan could be excited about this crisis that the world is in? We got a hand back there.
We're closer to when Jesus is coming.
Come on, somebody better say, somebody to say amen right there. Listen, for those of you who are still getting your introduction to the Bible, to God, one of the joys, one of the hopes of the Christian is that the world as we know it will at some point come to an end, and that we will actually get to see face to face our Creator, the Creator of the universe. The Creator will eventually come and make his appearance. He will no longer be invisible. All of my life, I have been trained and taught to operate with a calmness, with a confidence, as well as a hope on March 14th, 2020. Everything that I've learned in my life about the Bible has equipped me to be calm, to be able to watch hysteria all around me, but I'm calm. If you are experiencing fear that you cannot seem to get a grip on, if your levels of anxiety are so high that you might need to be medicated because of it, and you are a Christian, this is a good test for you. This crisis, this coronavirus outbreak is a good test for how well you will fare during the time of trouble. So the Bible says, so if I'm throwing out some terms that you're not familiar with, time of trouble, what is that, Stan? I've never heard of that before. Well, we need to go and read the book of Revelation, that book that a lot of people like to stay away from. But it's a book that's full of good and rich and hopeful information. The time of trouble is a period of time here on earth that people who eventually make it to heaven must go through, must endure in order to satisfy their rite of passage, if you will. The time of trouble. And the way the Bible describes it, this that we're experiencing right now, this is nothing. I mean, it is something. Don't get me wrong. Stan does take it seriously. I am not a proponent of not doing everything that you can and heeding the very wise counsel of doctors and leaders in order to keep you safe, to help prevent you from contracting the coronavirus. So I am a supporter. In fact, the Reclamation Project remains in compliance for what the new orders and what the laws have established. So we are operating legally, morally, and ethically. But at the same time, if this has got you just so fearful that it's bothering your health even before you even contract the coronavirus, then you have got a ways to go. We've got to be ready. So let me just speak for a moment to the veteran Christian, and then we're going to wrap it up. The veteran Christian who's read the Bible, who's studied, we should all be looking differently to the world. When people see us, they should not see a people who's fearful, who's terribly concerned and who doesn't know what's coming and who didn't see this coming. So the Christian needs to be they need to be pillars in more ways than one. During this time of crisis, we need to be the ones that are encouraging others that it's bad, but it's not that bad. And even though you might suffer a little bit if you get this virus, that there's hope for you. Not in just in this world, but in the world to come that seems to be just around the corner. So I just wanted to just share that with you. The coronavirus, while it is something that we need to continue to take seriously, do everything that you can to keep things safe, clean. Don't do your best not to contract it, but at the same time, well, I'm just going to speak for myself and my family. I have to keep everything in its proper balance. I can't stop what I'm doing. I have to keep ministering. I have to keep teaching. I have to keep helping people. None of that can stop just because there's a crisis going on. Even if I now watch this, this doesn't have to be you. If I get the virus, I'm not gonna. Okay, I get it. I'll deal with it. But I'm not gonna break my neck. I'm not gonna kill anybody else trying to avoid getting it. I'm not gonna sacrifice anybody. I'll get it, and I will trust that my God will take care of me. And so I just encourage us who know better to do better. And so, with that said, I just want to say thank you for coming to the Reclamation Project today. Thank you for tuning in. For those of you out and YouTube Live, and we will be back. Uh, ooh, how confidently can I say that? We'll be back next month. I tell you what, there's going to be a stream going regardless. If I have to do it out of my garage and bring the speaker to my garage, bring the guest singer to my garage, and bring a little core group. Because if a new order goes out, no gatherings under 10 or over 10, then I'll maximize that 10, and we'll operate and we'll stream from the Mackey garage. But thank you for tuning in. And we're actually going to start our stream, let's see, at 2 o'clock for our traditional worship service. So this really was that hour that was intended for people to come and ask questions. Oftentimes, more times than not, we have discussions that encompass subject matter where we can show that there's science in the Bible, that there's evidence with God, and that there's objectivity when we discuss the nature of the Bible. Today, it's a little bit more subjective, if you will, unless you're already a believer. Um, it's not subjective to you. We already know that Satan is real, the devil is real, and he operates. But again, I just want to thank you guys for coming, and we will see you next month, or we'll see you in about 10 minutes.